Hi, I'm Shalini Misra, sitting in my New Delhi home and very excited to have a conversation with Kulapat and Jasmina. So Kulapat is the founder of Y Architects and global world-renowned architect doing fabulous museum designs. Jasmina is from Nagaland, the founder of Heirloom Naga and Cane Concepts. So today, Jasmina, can I start with you? Your journey in the design and craft world and reshaping communities in Nagaland.
Sure. But first of all, allow me to express my deep appreciation to you, Shalini Misra. Under the banner of Shakti Residency, you have created such an incredible platform where you are connecting the maker, the designer, the stakeholder, and institutions. I believe that this intersection of craft, design, can really go a long way in uplifting communities like mine from the region that I am, from the state that I come from, which is Nagaland. To many, craft is often seen as heritage that needs to be preserved. But I strongly believe that craft can be one of India's most powerful engine for inclusive growth, given the reality that the craft sector is the second largest generator of employment in our country, only next to agriculture. But the sad reality is that most of the artisans who make up this population are either invisible or undervalued. Now this is where initiatives like collaborations, design innovations, new marketing strategies, and elevating craft can go a long way in allowing communities to express their identities, to find new meaning in the work that they do. And as we know, for many communities, particularly from the indigenous population, it's also how they sustain themselves. So I'm very happy that a philanthropist like you has come into this realm and is taking craft to the next level.
And Kulapat, it's very interesting how you design these beautiful spaces to display the craft and design. I recently visited the Metropolitan Museum in New York, where they had the Polynesian exhibition. How do you conceptualize the design for such spaces?
Thank you, Shalini. For me, I'm so lucky to be able to work for architecture of culture, right? And craft is definitely part of it. I think to be able to really use culture as a way of connecting people, communities, families together is something as a joy. And architecture is obviously the art of hosting. We recreate the place, recreate the venue, the platform for art, music, craft, food, everything to exist, right? The placemaking is ingrained within what we do. And just to go back to what Jasmine just mentioned, craft, I really feel like we are seeing the craft renaissance happening right now, especially in the light of AI, in the light of lack of human touch, human hands, right? The invisibility that you mentioned, the women, the families are now coming to the forefront as human values. I'm so excited to hear from both of you about that subject. Yeah.
Beautiful. Would you like to tell us the story on how you started working with weaving, I think?
So my journey, to say the least, has been from very humble beginnings. I started my work in the weaving sector with just one weaver, who I often saw weaving this with the same rhythm, the same textile day in and day out, until the day I asked her, would you like to do something new? Because at that time, I'm talking about the early 90s, whatever was available in the market of Nagaland in terms of textiles was only the traditional shawls or the sarongs that women wore. And beyond that, there was nothing that was of modern usage. So it was a very spontaneous act of mine, and she agreed. And I think, it just took off because of its authenticity and novelty. And, I still have to, I still go through pinch me moments because from one weaver, I grew to 3. to 5, still in my backyard, yeah?
Yeah.
And then within the same year, I grew to 50, which is when I relocated to a village, which is from my neighboring town. And I built a very basic shed where I invited women from that village to come in and to stay as residents and to do the weaving. So when I talk about weaving, I'm very passionate about it because in a state like mine, weaving is the monopoly of women. It's relegated only to women because it's considered taboo for men to weave.
Wow.
So, as soon as I got into weaving with women and living with them, I understood very clearly that without doing so much, we were clearly contributing to empowering women. And when I say empowering women, it was really empowering women at the grassroots. Because we had a very unstable political climate in those days. In fact, we still have the longest insurgency problem in the country. And hence, our pace of development was very slow. So it was only like we didn't have industries then. So it was only like small initiatives or cottage industries like these, which could offer a regular income to the women. So that said, I must give you a recent example. Just recently, there was this weaver, a mother of 5, who came to collect the raw material and the designs from the center. I thought, I mistook her, because she came out of a car. And to me, that was my biggest high till date.
Wonderful, yes.
She said she bought a second-hand car. And she said that she spends a lot of money hiring, tempos to come back and forth. So very, very, very interesting that she bought that car, and that's how she supports her family. So these are the little human stories that really inspires me, and I think a lot of people who are with me in the organization.
Wonderful, wonderful. Kulapat, you are such a global thinker and an architect, having grown up in Thailand, educated in Japan, lived in LA, New York. I can't even keep track on how many projects you have all over the world. But I'm most excited about the new competition that you won to design a museum in New Delhi in the North Block and South Block, the size of the Metropolitan Museum in New York. That's really massive. So very excited about that. Congratulations. And I would love to get, if you can, a little preview on what you're thinking.
Thank you, Shalini. I mean, it's really an honor of a lifetime to be able to really touch on a project like that. And of course, growing up in Thailand, we're so influenced by the Indian civilization through Buddhism, through Sanskrit, through Ramayana, to many other things, right? To come and work here, I felt like I have arrived back into the mothership. Because when you look at the mythology, the culture, everything, it's so related. Yes. So this profound impact of the Indian civilization is more than just the subcontinent. It's all over. And for me to be able to do that is so fantastic. And the project is, to transform the North Block and South Block, which is a governmental office around 150,000 square meters, into a new museum, which is a national museum, which will celebrate not only the heritage material, but the name is Yuge Yugin Bharat Museum, which means everlasting India. The idea that India then and India now are all continuing. And when you think about that, it's one of the few, if not only civilization in the world that was not disrupted, right? I mean, of course, China had a cultural revolution. The Grand Egyptian Museum that just opened is only the ancient material, right? So not only other people can talk about thousands and thousands of years, and when you look at, the work from even Harappan or even that generation back today, there are similarities that allow us to really draw that connection through, and craft is definitely one of it. Yeah. So I'm very honored to be part of that. So I'm very honored to be able to work on that project and to be able to not only celebrate Indian cultures, but also art and craft of all times.
It was very interesting to travel with you in Jaipur recently and seeing some monuments from 15th, 16th century. And I was seeing your eyes wandering into a certain direction, looking at the way the Arash plasterwork was done or the Tikri mirror tiles were done.
That's so beautiful.
It's very interesting to see how curious you are about different materiality.
Thank you. No, I think there's so much that we all can learn from Indian architecture and craft and civilization. I could not even begin to scratch the surface, right? So to be able to really sit down with both of you and focus on art and craft, which is something that, like what we talked about in the time of technology and AI, more than ever, right? Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I feel when I do interiors, and most of the time we try to use bespoke pieces which are actually handmade, and they have a very strong narrative. And I find my clients treasure it even more because it's something they feel they can pass it down. And what is the scene in Nagaland? Because it is still a mystery. Not many people know about Nagaland. So it'll be wonderful to...
So to give you a little perspective, the Nagas have a very strong tradition of art and craft, which I think is rooted in a lifestyle that is in complete harmony with the environment. So skilled craftsmen and weavers were considered the pillars of a society which was completely self-sufficient for centuries. So these artisans and craftsmen lent their skills to making not only objects of utility, but also of ritualistic value, without losing sense of the aesthetics. So this is what inspires me so much till date. You know, we have different forms of basketry, for example, for various purposes. So that if it is very dense, the basket, it's to carry the grain from the paddy field. If it's a little porous, then it's either to carry the firewood or to carry water on the woman's back. So having said that, while men did all the crafting in natural materials like timber or bamboo and cane, women lent the expertise on the loom. They didn't just weave, they wove the entire identities onto the loom. So, we have like 17 tribes and several sub-tribes, and each of them own their own narrative in design, in color, in shapes, forms, symbolisms. So women wove their identities into their cloth, so marking age, gender, status, fist of merit, to name a few. So in today's context, with more and more people migrating to other sectors, I feel that it is imperative for all of us to be united in our initiatives to claim the making from the hand. And you've mentioned about Indian civilization, but here I would also like to point out that the Indian civilization is the only civilization where millions still live by the wisdom of their hand. In any case, craft in India is one of the oldest startups.
It's a natural thing. It's a natural way of being.
And craft is also one of the oldest form of innovation. See? So for me, I'm absolutely resolute in my belief that we must reclaim the hands, particularly when in the backdrop of AI. I know there are two sides of the story, but I read somewhere, in fact, somebody sent me this article, and I couldn't agree with what the writer wrote. He said that, humanity is facing extraordinary times and extraordinary paradoxes. We've never been more connected, more automated, more intelligent, and yet we've never been more disembodied. We've outsourced our thinking, we've outsourced everything to AI. So more than ever, we must reclaim the hand and connect it with our soul, to our minds. And therein, is where craft can play a very, very significant role.
I totally agree with that. And I think the fact that in Nagaland, a lot of things was made and built, the architecture, the design, to keep in harmony with nature. And also the fact that the women, while they were weaving, put down their identity But when I look at that, it's not figurative at all, like the rest of India. It's very, it is what like, it's more conceptual in my mind.
Yes.
It's more geometrical in my mind. And I think that's really beautiful. And it has its own very strong identity for that reason.
Even a small stripe has some meaning. Like maybe if, just to give you an example, in my mother's stripe, she belongs to a community called the Angami Nagas. So they have like different colors and different sizes of, skirts for women. If she hasn't achieved puberty, then she wears a very small skirt. And if she's an educated lady, I mean, in those days there was no education, right? But now the weavers have come up with different designs to define one's status within the community.
It's very interesting how, in some ways, fashion defines you. Like you said about you. And Kulapat, how about your jumpsuits?
Well, in some sense, I start wearing jumpsuit because I want to also honor the workers, right? Because as architects, and I'm sure you're the same, that you're between the client and the construction, right? And most of the architects will dress like the client, suit and tie, as a business person, right? Which leave the construction workers out on their own. So I start wearing jumpsuit because when I go to a construction site, I want them to look at me and say, oh, he's one of us, rather than one of the client. Because, I want them to feel that even though we're not working with our hands, we're actually using drawing, we use other things. But like you're writing the recipe, but the people who cooking for you is actually, the workers. So you're actually closer to them more than the client, right? So in that note, I felt it's so important to really create a sense of connection.
Yes.
And one thing that I learned, going back to what you said, that profound moved me, is to compare the craft of Thailand and the craft of Japan, which is so different, right? In a way, we're both Asian, we both are Buddhists, and we both eat rice. But it's a very different way of coming to craft. The way we think about, even the rice growing is so different, the community, the village is different, the role of family and women are so different, like what you say. So all of these really interpret so differently into the craft and the craft making, which I find, I can't help because I spent 30-some years between the two countries, really thinking about, of course, the maximal and minimal aspect of the culture, but also how craft can travel throughout and have their life of its own.
And I just feel that talking about you spending time and how crafts have their own identities, for me, living in New York, London, New Delhi now in my current status of life, I find each one has its own identity in making, but creatively thinking, I just find there's a lot of similarity globally. And that's why it's so nice to be here in New Delhi with all of you and, idea thrashing and all that. It's not too dissimilar.
No. In fact, to add to that, to what you just said, last year we had a collaboration with some Thai designers, and the exhibition was called From Mountain to Mountain. So for me, like, it was transcending borders, transcending boundaries, because we also share very similar cultural affinities. So for me, it was a very moving experience. And although the exhibition was initially slated for just about a month, the reviews were so good that a lot of mountain people came from different parts of Thailand, Taiwan to come and see the exhibit.
Where was it?
In Chiang Mai.
Even I was not from the mountain. I went to see because there was a repetition, and was really profoundly moved by that relationship. Because, of course, I know a little bit of Nagaland, but like it's so really well put to compare and relate all the different craft together. But you also include contemporary voices as well, which I think is so important in a conversation. So it doesn't look like something from the past.
No. So it's, I also believe that it's also about moving ahead, forging new relationships. I mean, this residency, for example, is all about forging new relationships when the designer, the maker, we all come together and give new meaning, and we are not only reshaping objects, but we are also reshaping new values, giving new meaning to craft without dishonoring tradition while creating something new. So I think this assimilation of culture, this assimilation of people, sharing of knowledge, sharing of resources will definitely be the future.
Yes. Also, I think in your studio, the two Shakti residents who are there have really enjoyed interacting with the basket maker and also with the wood carver. I think they're learning a lot from them.
So we also built a center a couple of years back with the sole intention of promoting, preserving, and continuing, cultural and craft traditions, while also inviting people to come and co-create with us, to live with us, to dirty their hands basically, and to learn more about the craft. And only then, I think designers will be more sensitive to
what
the ground
is-
realities.
Yes. Do you use that a lot in your work? Do you work with local communities around the world?
Yes, I mean, I think one thing that I'm very strong at with our trade, because as you mentioned, we work for museums and architect of culture all over the world, right? And museum should be, for the people, of the people, and with the people. So therefore, the only way to do it is co-creation, just like you said.
Yes.
And we're actually one of the architects that are known for that process. There's some project we spend 2 years engaging before we actually start designing, just to get the trust, get to understand, because a lot of time museum is not only just a place of culture, it's a machine for growth, it's a machine for pride.
Right.
It's a place for people allowed to create jobs, create a sense of, leapfrog into what they want to be. Right? So all of these, because I see museum as cultural infrastructure. So if a city can afford only $50 million to build a museum, it has to be everything for everyone. And that $50 million has to be well spent to the point that the new generation of designers and professionals and others that come through and use that as a tool to leapfrog their own career and their own creative process. Talking about craft, one point that was really touched me so much when I was very young, there's a craft store in Bangkok called Thai Home Industries, which is quite well known. It's right in front of the Oriental Hotel. Right, and I did beautiful flatwares out of stainless steel with hammer, which is now used and copied all over the world. And I was so struck about it. And as a child, maybe 10 years old, I asked, well, how much is this? And they say, this is the price, which is not cheap. But I said, well, I would like to buy 4 of them. And I remember they said, oh, you have to wait for a month. And I was like, why? As a young person, I'm so used to going to the thing and get it immediately. They said, because people are making that at their home, right? So then I learned that exactly what you're doing is that the owner, who have since then become friends, the way they do it is that they actually have a system of delivering the material to each of the person's home. So they don't have to leave home to go to a factory. Yes. So therefore, the family life stay intact. Both, in this case, both men and women, right? They can be with their children. They can do other things. They own their home. There's no migration to a city that have to work. When I found that as a young age, I was so profoundly moved about the power and the root of craft. And without craft, family will be gone.
Yes.
Right? So I think on that note, what you're doing is so inspiring.
Yeah, so one of the most moving realities about the work that I do for myself is not displacing my artisans from their homes. So for a very long time, many people, particularly in the overseas markets with whom we work back to back, they couldn't understand the concept. And it took me a very long time to impress upon them that, look, we have trained and skilled our artisans to such a high degree of accuracy that I can provide you 100 units of the same item, although they are made by hand and although several hands are involved. So that's the degree of precision that we have achieved over the
Very
years.
interesting.
And in our case, like the loin loom with which the women work, it's also one of the most flexible looms in the world. It allows the women complete authority and ownership of her work. It's a very common feature in our clusters when you come. I will take you there to see a woman sitting in her kitchen. You know, she's fastened the loom on the windowsill and she's weaving and she's standing up cooking. You know, it's a very common scene.
I love that.
And you can raise your children, you can live your family
and
life.
for the men, like everyone has some bamboo trees in their backyard, you know. So the men like are used to weaving mats for us, bamboo mats and other objects of utility. And so consequently, both men, both the husband, the wife, and other members of the family are all involved intensely into the making of the
That's
product.
beautiful, yes. Do you also use your hands by any chance to do any artwork? No.
I wish
Because
I
we
did.
get so, yeah.
I wish.
I on holidays try and do calligraphy or something like that. Yeah, because I like to use pencil for drawing and sketching my ideas. So sometimes I try to meditate with that and go inwards with that.
So for me to bridge that gap, I also offer workshops to a lot of people who are traveling all the way to Nagaland to our center to learn how to weave, to learn how to make basketry,
That's brilliant,
to do
yes,
wood
yeah.
carving, etc.
When I come, I definitely want to do that.
For sure, for sure, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Jasmina. It was so wonderful to hear you talk. And Kulapat, it's been so wonderful to see your vision and how you bring the whole community and culture together in your design work. Brilliant. Thank you.